This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon, Peg.
Good afternoon. Great to be here today. Beautiful,
Yes, it is.
beautiful week of rain and sun. It's nice to be warm. It's nice to be warm.
And it's the weekend.
Yes.
Happy weekend. Happy
Yes.
Saturday,
Yes.
everybody.
Yes,
We're
happy
here.
Saturday.
Peg and I are business coaches, and we work with a variety of companies. I'd say half of them, more than half of them in Ohio, but we have some that are out of state, and we help them grow. Almost always we help them grow and earn more, but we also help them with a whole variety of different things, sometimes problems and sometimes opportunities. Take advantage of opportunities.
Correct. Sometimes it's turning the volume up on what they're doing really well, right?
Yep.
And so,
Like your radio, get ready,
Yes,
turn
turn
the
up the
volume
volume
up
up.
on this particular show.
right. Well, today our topic. So, every week we have a new topic. The topic
do.
for this week is the office.
Yes.
Now, describe a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, Pete.
Well, Peg, we've done a little bit of research, and we've got some articles here, but these articles for us are just a starting point. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've learned with our clients and our own office about some of the dynamics that are going on within your office and how we relate to other people in the office, whether it's the boss or coworkers or whoever it is. And there's a lot of things going on in the typical office these days.
There is, and we're going to give you some case studies, and it's going to be fun. It's a show for all.
It's always fun.
It will be. And if you want any of our other shows or this show in its entirety, go to our website, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com, and it's a chance if you want to meet us or talk to us or just to connect and listen to all of our archive shows.
And there's a 98.9 FM icon in the upper right corner. You click on that, and you can see the
There we
shows
go.
by topic
There we
on
go.
there.
But before we do any of our topics, we're going to stop for a moment and talk about good news, right?
Good news. Why do we do that, Peg?
Well, it was funny. The other day I was listening to the news. The news was in the background, which we tend not to watch the news in our household because it's all negative, because we sensationalize the drama, the negative. So you hear about the murders.
To help sell things.
Right. It's about ratings. You don't hear about, Susie
Somebody helped somebody across
else.
the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk good news here, and we're going to talk about, usually it's in the realm of business, but what have you dug up this time,
Yeah,
Pete?
so here we go. There's just a series of things. So one is retail sales rise. This is an article out of the Wall Street Journal, boosted by clothing and food, which you just bought some clothing last week, right?
Yes.
And so you're helping everybody here. Retail sales, a measure of spending at stores, online shopping sites, and restaurants, rose at a seasonally adjusted 0.3% in April from the prior month, according to the Commerce Department. The national gas price, we've noticed that gas has been going up, but gas station sales still rose. People are spending more. Excluding gasoline and auto, spending still rose 0.3% from March into April, suggesting wage gains and larger paychecks from the tax reform legislation helped induce more purchases. So even though we have higher energy prices, people are spending a little bit more, which is good. It's just indicating the economy is still strong.
It's still doing well.
Yeah, which we know because the restaurants are full.
Mm-hmm.
Jobs figures. This is a different article. Drives home the point. Unemployment rate slipping to 3.9%. That's a pretty big deal. And there are also a lot of people getting back into the job market that weren't in the job market. So people that were not looking for a job are getting back into the job market. I've got one here about Elon Musk. I like these things because it's just interesting stuff. That Elon Musk said the latest configuration of his rocket's designed to fly as many as 10 times without any scheduled maintenance. So they're going to have a rocket that can reuse 10 times at least. And they may get it to the point where they can do it 100 times. So that's their goal.
Isn't that great?
Make this thing reusable and saves lots and lots of money,
it's
which
gotta
will make
save tons of money.
It'll make things that go into space cheaper.
Which,
communication and all that stuff.
Right, and I know that they're doing now. I know this isn't an article, but they're doing people into space. They're buying.
You mean you can pay to go into space?
Pay to go into space.
I think it's a little pricey. I mean, Alan's going, right? Our producer Alan is going to go.
Yeah, it is a
but
little pricey.
We're not there yet, but we will be. I mean, it'd be nice to go, wouldn't it?
Well, I think it would be. I don't know. Would you go? Would you go? If
I'd go in
could?
a second. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, interesting. I don't know that I would go, Pete.
Oh
Yeah. I've got Allie and Lauren and John here. I don't know. I worry a bit about anything going wrong.
Fun fact, $1.2 trillion in lost productivity due to March Madness.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting? United States.
March Madness.
Yeah, for the college basketball
That was
playoffs.
A while ago.
I know.
That
I
is a
had this
fun
note
fact.
here. I thought,
That's a fun
that's
fact.
kind of funny.
Well, that is a fun fact. Okay, so Pete, one of the things that Pete gets to do, and again, Pete and I have been coaches here. We have a firm here locally, right in Upper Arlington, but we travel all over the U.S. to help companies.
Right.
And Pete is our our developer or our researcher.
Yeah.
Researcher.
Yeah.
And you brought an article that you were showing to me. You guys have to listen to this. This is first. I want you to ask.
Is it about the phones?
Yes, about the phones.
Okay. Yeah.
So when Pete asked me, now I know the answer. But I want the listeners to take a moment. If you were to wonder how many times a day.
Everybody out there, think about
this. How many times a day do you think you look at your phone? So when I first read that, how many times a day do I think I look at my phone? I was thinking about 200 to 300 is what I was thinking.
A couple hundred times, which sounds like a lot.
I mean, that seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I was thinking a couple, 3 times, 200 to 300 times.
Uh-huh.
And we were astounded with the figure of, ready, drum roll, 2,617 times a day. And now this is a Wall Street Journal
Now, is this an
article.
8th grader?
No, this is what's
the average
amazing.
American.
It's the average American. 22,617 times a day.
So we figure if you're awake 16 hours, that's 163 times an hour.
Which is 3 times a minute?
3 times a minute. Roughly.
And that's the average per person that taps, pokes, pinches, or swipes their personal phone. So, our topic is the office today, right? As business coaches, we deal with a lot of office dynamics. Maybe there's drama. We call it aligning your office, making sure if you haven't had an alignment in your office, you must. We suggest once a year to have a great, productive, wonderful office environment. So I really like this this whole topic of the phone.
This is just one topic, is phone etiquette.
Yes, the phone etiquette and how it gets in the way of the production. So it's amazing that the swipes themselves adds up to about 2 hours and 25 minutes. And so,
wow.
Yes.
And you're really awake 16 hours a day.
And do you know when they say statistically that most of that time came from? The time we were at work.
Oh, so most of that. So 2.5 out of your, whatever your work day is, 8, 9 hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here, now listening. So you have your team members, and there's this whole dynamic, which we've dealt with teams of, do you require, is there a rule that you have no phone at your office? And we've heard that's not
in the office at all.
Yeah,
that's very unusual.
And you shouldn't do that. Right. I mean, do not do that. You're going to have, that's not a good culture.
However, if you're going into a meeting, wouldn't it be nice if everybody kept them in their pocket?
Well, actually, Pete, we took it a step further. If you think of our one client where we don't keep them in our pocket, but we don't bring them in.
You leave them in your office.
Yes. In fact, we were just working with a client, Pete and I were last week, and we were creating a new meeting structure to bring the team together more.
Right.
And I said, hey, what if they didn't bring in their phones? And she said, this was Amy, and Amy goes, well, when I'm talking, their phones are down. I said, no, it's not the moment when you're talking. It's the moments before the meeting that they're on their phones before
and after.
And why would you think that we don't want that?
Well, because in the old days, pre-phone days, you remember these days, Alan?
Mm-hmm.
When you would go in and actually talk to your coworkers about, how was your weekend? Or, hey, those are nice shoes. Or, what are your kids up to? That kind of thing. Before and after meetings, you talk to each other about everything.
It's the times in which the relationships are being
You're
built.
not looking at your phone.
Right.
Now you're looking at your phone.
So she's going to do that. So she's saying, don't even bring your phone in.
Right.
Because we're missing that. So as you're looking at production and again, this is Peg and Pete with office, I was going to say office, the office. The office is our topic.
That's the topic.
Business talk is, we're going to talk the rest of the radio show about office dynamics and little tips and strategies you can use or implement right away to help.
Last week we had an interview with a business owner and a couple of members of the staff and myself, and the business owner, he made a comment about everybody there had their phone in their pocket. They didn't have their phone out at all. And it was good. It was a good comment.
Right.
But we were there to eat a little bit and have a drink, get to know each other, and it was a good conversation, and nobody was looking at their phone. And he actually was appreciative that everybody...
And they didn't have to ask. It was just
You didn't have
done.
to ask. Everybody did it, you know.
And that's one thing. When we return, Pete, I want to talk a little bit because there's an idea. There's an app that we're going to want you to get. We want you to get this app, and we're going to tell you what it is in order to increase production in your office.
Is this what they call a teaser?
It's a teaser.
Okay.
So you have to stay tuned because this is a really great idea that will have a high impact.
It's an explosive idea.
It's an explosive
idea. Stupendous.
In fact, we're going to do it. When we return, we're going to talk about what that idea is and how you apply it. And trust me, it's easy.
Fantastic.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
So we're talking today about the office and in general, office etiquette, things to do to improve your office environment. We've been talking about phone use as a big topic.
Right.
It's a very big topic.
Right. And I promised, as you called it, Pete, the teaser.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those of you that stayed. Congratulations.
What is it, Peg? What is it?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I can't take credit for this, but I definitely am going to steal the idea. In the Wall Street Journal, in this article, they had this gentleman who, there is an app that you can put on your phone. Okay. And it's a...
What's the name of the app?
It says phone usage.
Can we say this on the air, Alan?
It's a iPhone that tracks the total amount of daily time that you spend on your phone.
Wow.
So
frightening. I
know it was his daily phone use with tracker.
Is that the name of it?
No, it doesn't say the name.
Oh, okay.
He just says that he installed an app called Moment.
Moment. Okay. Moment.
I'm sorry. I thought it was saying his moments. No, the app is called Moment.
Okay.
So what he did is, now right before the break, if you just joined us, what we said is that on average, the average person is 2 hours and 25 minutes a day on their phone. That's swiping on their phone. Most of this...
And you're actually looking at it or touching it 2,600 times on average.
Yes.
A day.
And when is that most of the time?
At work.
At work.
Right.
So in order to increase production and do this, so what he did with his team is he said, okay, everybody, he encouraged it. He didn't make them do
mandate it.
No, he didn't mandate it. He said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And he had a team of 8. He said, let's all download the app Moment, and then we're going to post our daily phone hours on a whiteboard.
Okay.
Because we're all it's almost like losing weight, if you can imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun
calories.
thing to do
sort of
together.
Kind of things.
Yeah.
And the team member with the lowest time, they get the bragging rights for the day.
Okay.
And so it was a way of being super self-aware of how present are we, how much are we doing, because we can get consumed with this. And it said it went really well. And, now they're thinking of having a trophy. A trophy we can pass around, or maybe
the human interaction trophy, right?
Exactly. That's a good one. So that was just one strategy to help build relationships is looking at the phone and even having a meeting and talking about what they think is the impact of the phone in their office environment.
Well, one thought is that it's okay to talk about it. If you're a manager, leader, business owner, in charge of a department, it's okay to talk about this just to make people aware. I mean, sometimes when you're aware, then you might realize that, hey, I'm going into a meeting. I'm going to put this thing in my pocket or my purse or leave it at my desk. When the meeting's over, I'll catch up.
Mm. And we talked about, having no phones in meetings.
Yeah.
It's interesting because here they talked about the no phones at meeting rule. And this is Mr. Brown's advertising agency, lasted about 2 months because it wasn't all effective. See, because instead of phones, staffers were smartwatches. They brought their laptops, which are just as distracting.
Oh, yeah. Even worse, I think.
So
you think the person's doing emails. And stuff.
Right. Well, he equated it. He goes, Mr. Brown missed his phone, too. He said he likened it to the experience of outlawing alcohol during the Prohibition, a theoretical state that almost no one wants to live in, and including those making the rules. So, I mean, I guess the whole point as we're wrapping up this phone thing is being aware.
Yeah, use common sense.
Use common sense.
And we want you to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Right. And remember that when we do interviews, which we do often with team members, a lot of times if you're a leader or a supervisor and you're walking around with your phone, that is a big no-no because what you're hearing from people is they never say hello. I'm always feeling they're so busy. I don't want to interrupt them. And you're missing opportunities to lead.
Interact with people.
Yes,
we
which
want
is
you to
leading.
interact with people.
Right. Exactly.
Even if it's small talk, it's still important.
So remember
You're
the
building
app.
relationship.
Exactly. And so remember the app moment so you can personally see. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna have a goal.
I just wonder what the difference would be with a group of teenagers and a group of adults.
Maybe I'll have Allie and Lauren do it.
If they would,
I will. I'll have Allie and Lauren.
Well, we should all do it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it. We're all going to do it.
All right.
So as our listeners, you do it and then email us.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I was on my phone. Yeah.
Email us and let us know what your moments were, and we'll report back.
At Pete McDowell at actioncoach.com.
Or you can go right on our website, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com, and there's our
do that.
A contact form right there, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
Perfect.
So that's good. Okay,
Very
Pete,
good.
that was a good office kind of nugget strategy.
Right.
So what are some other strategies that you've done some research
this is Peg
on?
and Pete with Business Talk, and we have a client that has a completely open office. In other words, all of their employees, and at this one location in Columbus, they have 70 people, and it's all open.
Including the president.
Including the president,
he's
including
right with
the
them.
owners. Now, a couple of accounting people have their own office, and the HR person has her own office. But everybody else is wide open. There are several different meeting rooms, and they're very nice meeting rooms, small and large, where you can go off and have meetings or phone calls if you need to. But everything else is wide open. And then this article caught my eye because it said, don't get too used to your own desk. Well, this article talks about there are companies now where you'll go in the morning and you won't know what desk you're going to sit at. You don't have your own desk at all.
Yes,
Radical, huh?
Right. Well, and it was interesting when I read this because Pete was kind enough to give me the article to read. And it was interesting because we do have a case study. So let's talk about office environments because we do work with a architectural firm that helps make your environments, MA Architects, which makes your environments really great to work in. And they do a lot of studying.
Oh, they create some beautiful
spaces. They do. And we work with them on change management and your cultures and coming in and working with people because that is a big shock. Like you go from an office to an open environment.
Right.
And then taking it a step further, what you just did, Pete, is saying, okay, now you don't have your own desk.
Right.
So and Pete, you don't know this story, but I was working with a client, a corporation, and they had this where nobody had desks.
Okay.
And they said, it was really interesting and it wasn't planned. But what happened is
people coming to work earlier.
No, that you would think that, but everybody ended up going to the same space anyway.
Oh.
So you could go anywhere you wanted, but our comfort zones.
Oh, that's Peg's desk. I'm not going there.
Well, you just kept going to the same one. It wasn't that you wanted to interfere with someone else. It's that you got comfortable going to the same desk, even though it wasn't yours.
Yeah, it's like church, right? You go to the same pew every time.
Exactly.
If you can.
And if you're in a meeting room and have a meeting, you tend to sit in the same seat.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing.
Right.
But what's good about this, one of the things that we learned through MA was how important it is to have space that you can get away from your desk and go to an open environment, whether it's a cafe or so that really encourages relationships. It encourages creative thinking. It encourages a different point of view. So like if you had a cafe and then that's nobody's seating arrangements.
Gotcha.
And that always works well.
And getting up and walking around is a good thing as well.
Right. And the thing about it is the one thing that we had one client, Pete, that we, I want to tell a story because you listeners, you're going to know this. So Pete and I as business coaches work with a lot of environments. Well, and you'll know this story. Well, we had a client in an office space that had a couple negative people. Whenever we see negative or really poor performers and then they whine and complain and you have an issue, you either have to get them on board or get them out. Because what will happen is
it grows, right?
It will grow.
It's like a sickness.
So I'm going to use Sam as the example. Sam.
Okay.
So we had Sam in this environment, and he wasn't very happy, right? So he was talking about, I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like this company, right?
Okay.
So everybody in their office, like if you look at their desk, everybody surrounding that desk became that way. It was growing. It's like
you actually saw
boil.
it happen.
Oh, I'm like, we got to do something about this. We got to do something about this. And we ended up, one of the things is we ended up shifting seats. She ended up leaving.
Yep.
Or he, Sam. And then we had to shift seats. And it's still like, it was amazing because some of the negativity of these people went to different areas.
Yeah.
And then they grew around their little. It was amazing. So I think you have to look at your environment. First of all, don't allow that. And then second of all is making sure that you're protecting the people around that negative Nelly. If that negative Nelly has to stay there, what are you doing in that environment to protect the people around them? Because they don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it.
Well, and at some point you got to determine whether or not somebody's adding value to your company.
Well, and it's funny because there's a book that Pete and I are reading that's just brilliant. Keith Cunningham's new book. Do you know what it's called? Do you know what it's called?
I'm thinking.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah.
We'll look it up. We'll tell you in a minute. But I have to get on my
I know
phone.
what it is. It's The Road Less Stupid.
The Road Less Stupid. It is a great.
It is pretty funny.
We're starting to read it, and it's just everything that we teach he's saying.
Right.
I mean, everything. And he goes, if you ever held on to that employee that is negative and not doing well and impacting your culture and impacting everything around you, and you say, but they're so valuable, they're so skilled, I won't be able to replace them. That is the number one thing that you and I see as coaches happening every day. But I can't do that because I'll never be able to replace them.
Right.
And I have to tell you, Pete and I have been doing this 13 years as business coaches. Not only do we replace them, we upgrade every
Well, and
single
you know
time.
what? The whole team takes a big sigh of relief when the change is made.
And it's an important thing. And I know you're saying I don't want to do that to the person, but the reality of it is,
Think about the rest of the team.
That's it, Pete.
Think about
the rest
all
of the team.
other employees, and you're the only one as the leader. You're the only one that can really address the situation.
You really are.
You're it.
And so looking at the office, since that's our topic to get today, is the office, is drama. Looking at drama, looking at the seating, look at your office environment. Right. Is it open? What are you allowing?
Well, and the point on that one is you, as the owner and the manager of the business, you're responsible for the drama that's going on and whether or not you allow it. And if you don't want to allow it, you've got to stop it.
And stopping it doesn't mean screaming and saying stop it, by the way.
Of course not. Yeah.
That's what some people do.
That's
though.
part of the drama, right?
Yeah,
if people are doing that, we got to stop that.
Right, right. And
you've got to remove the offenders. If you can't change them, they have to go somewhere where people love drama.
You either coach them up or coach them out.
Right.
It's either or.
And you don't stop until it's one or the other.
Right. And that's how you're going to get that's how you're going to stop the drama in your office.
Right.
Is making sure you do that.
Right. So I'll give you a couple of these tips from this article about the companies that have gone to no ownership of a desk, and they've got Genentech is a huge company that shows their California headquarters. Before you do this, you can set and enforce rules for using shared meeting spaces. Sounds good. Require online reservations for conference rooms. MA has little electronic boards posted right next to each of the meeting rooms now, where you can tell whether they're open or not.
Right.
Soundproofing into shared workspace areas, allow more working from home, require senior executives to set an example. We like that in all cases. Encourage work groups to set team rules on social behavior, provide technology to replace paper notes and files.
Stop back there, Pete.
Work groups to set team rules.
No, the one before that. We should, when we return from break, let's talk about that one, about the...
setting an example?
No, the one after that. It was about social rules.
Oh, encourage work groups to set team rules on social behavior.
When we return, I want to start there and talk about what that means.
Sure.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more business talk.
So welcome. We had I like our right before the break, we were talking a lot about phones, and I was looking up as we were at break, I was llooking up the book from Keith Cunningham. So,
yeah,
and then I was like,
stupid.
Yes, and then I'm like, I want to look at that app. Right before the break, we talked about the app called Moments. It's that you put on your phone that tracks the. I do want to make sure as we're telling you that there is a Moments app.
Moments app. Okay.
Yes.
Did you download it yet?
I have not, so I'm sitting here text monitoring. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
All right, so one of the things we talked about is there are quite a few companies that have gone to open office concepts, and there are also companies that have gone on the next step farther is when you come in the morning, you go to a desk somewhere, and it may not be your own.
Right.
It's just common work areas.
Think of how you'd have to have everything clean all the time. Everything would have to be organized.
Actually, yeah, that's offer etiquette. These are some of the rules. Before you take away everybody's desks, offer etiquette training to curb slobs and squatters.
And squatters.
Yeah, somebody who says, that's my desk, even though there's no desk, that's my desk.
That's my desk.
Yeah.
Oh, you can imagine that. Ooh. So right before the break, we talked about, let's talk about those social...
Yeah, one of the rules they said here is encourage work groups to set team rules on social behavior. And we do this with groups anyway.
Right.
And this is one of our natural things to do is if we're going to have rules in the office or in the factory or wherever it is, let's have the group set the rules.
And I like it. It's called how I always call it the roommate agreement. That's our word is we all work together. Mm-hmm. What are we all going to agree on? And this is Pete and I do alignments with teams, and Michelle and Don, we all do alignments with our companies. And it's one of the first things we do as we're coaching is, and you could do this separate of coaching. You could just say, hey, Peg and Pete, I want you to come in and do an alignment.
Oh, right.
Or we bring in everybody, and part of that alignment process is setting those rules of behavior.
Yeah, it's a structured event, but one of the outcomes of that is we have a set of rules that everybody developed and they agree to follow.
Right. And hold each other accountable. And what would some of the rules be, Pete?
Well, it would be treating each other with respect.
Right.
And then describing what does that mean.
Right.
We're not yelling, we're not swearing, we're not hollering at each other.
Right.
We're being positive.
That's another rule.
That could be another rule is
yeah.
Be positive. Do what you say you will do. Follow through on things. If you can't do something,
that would be another one.
Say so.
Right
away. There are all kinds of
another
different
one
things.
that we really like is go direct. We're not allowed to gossip or talk about others.
Yep.
So these rules are really good to do regardless of your open concept or changing desks. That's another strategy in order. We said that the topic today is the office. So if you go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com and look at some of our different radio shows that are all downloaded, this is called The Office.
And that show, you see a lot of examples of things that have just gone crazy.
They've
gone
office,
way out of line,
Oh, it's wonderful. I still laugh at that.
It's pretty funny
It's one of
stuff.
my favorites. It is hilarious.
But they've let some of this dysfunction go to a whole new level.
Exactly. Our job is to make sure it's not that way. So going back to the rules, so we had you stop right before the break at that one, and then from there, what are some not rules, tips?
Yeah, tips. If you do go to this thing to provide shared office and cleaning supplies. Provide technology to replace paper notes and files. We have more paper now than we did 30 years ago, and we thought we were going to get rid of paper. We haven't.
Yeah, some companies have. Some people haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, there's as much paper now than there was before.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a study on that, or is that just you saying?
Yeah, I just
figured
read
there's
about
a study.
That. Yeah.
I figured.
It hasn't gone away.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Okay.
Soundproofing. Did I mention that? Soundproofing in the shared work areas. Okay. You mentioned something about senior executives setting an example by using spaces wisely themselves.
Well, as a leader, people will mirror your behavior. So whatever you do.
You're the parents of this work group.
Yes. So they will mirror you. So
darn it.
You need to set the example, or else guess what? You're not going to get what you want. Well, any other tips, Pete?
The other thing this is just interesting, and you've mentioned this before, we have 5 generations existing in the workplace. This is one company talking about
That's true.
Their company. The traditionals who's aspired to a corner office for their entire career, and a millennial who doesn't care where they sit. They just don't care.
That makes sense. That does make sense.
11% of employers meet resistance from employees, according to a 2015 survey of 500 employees by the International Facility Management Association. Some people really don't want a locker. They want a desk for pictures of their family and their dog.
Right.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that if you have a completely open office where nobody has a desk?
Well, see, what happens now is that people have their pictures on their phone and their laptop. So there's no more frames.
Oh, I never thought of that.
So that's why this works, but it doesn't work for a generation that may not be using that technology.
Untidy employees can be more annoying if they make messes in shared spaces. 10% of employers offer unassigned seating, also added more cleaning services. 9% provided etiquette training to curb bad behaviors like squatting or
Well, you know, if you think about it in our office, and again, if we look at office dynamics and as coaches, what we've run into, we've talked about the employee who's negative or tries to spread discourse and negativity and how I don't like things. That's one thing. That's one issue. Another issue is, believe it or not, is and it said it in there, it touched upon it, is the voice, how loud people are.
Oh, right. Yes, you do have to be careful of that.
You have to be careful of that. That's why you have these rules, so that people can have parameters to work through, because that's why it's the roommate agreement, right? The other thing is cleaning. We've had comments like, oh, my gosh, they smell because they have popcorn or food that they warm up.
I was thinking body odor. Yeah.
Body odor. We don't get too much body odor, but we do get they have smelly food and they don't know how to communicate that.
You're eating sardines again.
All of these things are happening in your office dynamics. And if you're listening to us and you're like, I don't think that happens here. Well, I wonder, when was the last time you did a survey that was anonymous where they had a way of voicing their opinion and they had a way of rectifying it? And that's what Pete and I do as coaches. So this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and we're coaches that help companies get to the next level and get along and work in an office dynamic together.
Right.
Through creating acceptable behavior that they all not only can adhere to, but then they're educated on how to adhere to it, and there's consequences if it isn't. And I don't mean bad consequences, but there's a communication plan if any of these aren't met.
Right. And then that leads us into the next topic. We have this another article here. It says new tools tell bosses how you're feeling. Companies are using artificial intelligence to get instant insights from employee surveys that once took months to process. And we work with a firm.
Yeah, Teamkeeper. Teamkeeper is a great software that we use that can do cultural checks with our office staff. It's wonderful because we know real time. There's these questions that go out and create, like it could be, I believe that my manager is helping me every day. That's not exactly the way the question is worded. It's better than that. But you can say yes, no, yes or no, or sometimes people don't reply.
Right.
So that is a great technology of understanding where your culture is.
Yeah, and there are a lot of companies that are doing this, a lot of companies that are using these things, and they're trying to keep a finger on the pulse of how the culture is doing. What are some things that are positive about our culture, and what are some things that are not so good about our culture, and how is it developing? Is it changing?
Right.
So they're trying to keep an eye on, especially with a larger organization, of is it changing in a way that I don't want?
Well, that's interesting. That is. And Teamkeeper, we have loved it because it really does let us test the temperature. Because have you ever had, so this is what's happening with we have a few teams that are not necessarily here, but they're in other places using Teamkeeper, and they're not in Columbus, but we have one that we're hearing from one or two people, oh, it's awful here, it's awful here, it's awful here, right? Because they're speaking up. We did a culture check. It's great. There's like 2 people unhappy in a team of 100. And it's the 2 people that are saying, it's awful here, it's awful here. And you just don't know. I love these feedback
Well, and it
surveys.
says that some employees worry about being psychoanalyzed by software, and employment lawyers are starting to fret about these programs that might contain biases that could lead to discrimination suits. So it's a minority, but there are some people that are worrying about, they're
always
checking
be
in
worried
with me. There's always going to be somebody worrying about
Well,
something.
they don't have to answer if they don't want Teamkeeper. You can answer if you want to or not.
Answer, right?
Yeah, I mean, but if you're not answering, then that tells us another thing. Are you engaged? And how can we help? That is interesting. There's always a different side, isn't it? Isn't it interesting? So Pete, what I see another here. This is a really great topic for our next section.
Yeah,
tell us
and it's about right and wrong ways to manage up. So we've all got bosses, right? Even if it's our clients, our customers, right?
Right.
How do you tell a customer when they're making a mistake? Those kind of things. But this is really about having your boss and helping your boss to understand how they can help you better without offending them. Or getting them upset.
So when we return, we have some really good ideas. We have some really good tips on how to manage up, because if you manage it wrong, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, I was thinking food is one good way. You find out what they like.
Well, when we return, I guess if that's one strategy, we'll have more then.
That's one of my own personal.
Oh, is that one to bribe me with food? Okay. When we return, we'll look at the rest of them.
We'll talk about it.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
So we're talking today about the dynamics of working in an office environment and some of the things that are changing in the average office around the country.
Right.
There's a lot changing.
Well, and we're sharing some examples of what we as coaches run into and how we gain alignment. And at the break, I wanted to point out something, Pete. When we were talking about alignment, now if you haven't heard this show in its entirety, you can always go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com and click on 98.9, and this will be aired in its entirety because it'll be archived.
In a few days.
So one of the things that Alan asked at the break, which was a great question, he said, well, you do this alignment where you come up with rules.
Right.
Well, how often do you do that?
Right. And we do it at least once a year. Sometimes if we think the team is drifting, we might do it in 6 months.
Right. But it's a
Or
constant.
if we made a major change with some of the rules that were developed, if it's a big change, you might want to do it in 6 months instead of a year.
Mm-hmm.
But at least once a year to get your team together and just talk about how we're doing as a group. Are there any new dynamics that have cropped up where we need to change our direction or change how we're working together?
So if you are interested in this, Pete and I do this. And,
right.
and so give us a call at
614-306-7922.
And we'll talk about what that alignment looks like for you. But
right.
Anyway, so for our last topic in the office, we're talking about managing up and communicating with your boss. And we promised some strategies, Pete. What were some of the strategies?
So here we go. So just to kind of set the stage here, managing up or building smooth, productive relationships with higher-ups requires understanding and adapting to your boss's communication and decision-making style. We talk about that a lot. What's their communication style? How do they make decisions?
We do that. We do. I mean, that's part of our alignment, frankly. When we come in, we do DISC behavior profiles, and we make sure that everybody understands how everybody is wired.
Right.
Because that's part of it.
And one of the things, and this is just good advice, it's common sense stuff, but it's still good, is don't assume good work will speak for itself. You need to interact effectively with your boss, and you need to take ownership for that interaction.
That is a really good one.
Don't assume that they will do it.
Don't say, well, they should know.
Well, maybe they should. In an ideal world, maybe they should. However, they're busy.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make sure you reach out to them and make sure that they know what's going on.
Communicating all the time.
Yeah, take ownership for it. I guess that's the overriding thing.
I love that tip because we see that so often. Well, they should know. Well,
right.
That's part of your job.
I've actually had that discussion with a client. He has an owner that is in a different city, and he said he's really hard to get a hold of. Well, okay.
Then what are you going to do?
You still have to get a hold of him, right? You
Yeah.
Just take the initiative and do it. I know he's busy. We're all busy. And he does appreciate it when this gentleman reaches out and says, hey, I need your help with something.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So some of the tips that they have in here, and these are just some general ones in the start here. Figure out and adapt to your boss's communication style by watching them interact with others. And the reason they suggest that is to learn how they interact.
Right.
Are they fast-paced or slow-paced? Are they task-oriented or people-oriented?
Right.
Where do they fall on those? And then you need to adapt a bit, not change yourself, but if they're a fast-paced person, speed up a bit.
I like that.
It's simple.
Just observe. Observe what they like. Okay,
right.
Very
observe
good.
them interacting with others to learn. Then seek agreement on how and when to update your boss on your work. This is an important one. And sometimes bosses will avoid that or say, I'll get to you. Be persistent, but professional. But say, look, I'd like to talk to you for 20 minutes every other week. I'm just throwing out an example.
That's good.
Just the two of us. And we could do it at 7 o'clock in the morning if later in the day is too much for you. We could do it at the end of the day. Doesn't matter.
And to your point, Pete, as Pete and I are coaching different team members within offices, I've had somebody, I'm going to call it Sam again. So I've had Sam say, well, I don't want to tell them what I'm doing because I just want the results to speak for myself. And I said, you know what will happen is if the results aren't fast enough, they're going to make up their own stories in their own mind. Right. They don't know what you're doing. They're assuming if you're not communicating what you're doing, then they're going to make up the story. So
right.
What do you want? And that's what was happening to him. And I've got to tell you, when we are working with supervisors and team members, when we see poor communication between the two, it's not good because the boss is saying, well, what are they doing? They're doing this wrong. And they're not. It's just they don't know the whole story.
Right.
It's generally because we're going to go in the negative path.
I mean, my advice most of the time is to seek more frequent, shorter interactions where you can focus the boss's attention on one or two things.
Perfect.
Here's what I'm doing here. Here's what I'm doing there. And only ask for help when you really need it.
I like that. Very good.
Ask yourself, there's some other tips, ask yourself whether tensions with the boss may be a problem of clashing styles rather than more fundamental things. If they're a fast-paced person, you're generally slow, don't assume that you're going to have a conflict with them every time. Just speed up a hair.
Right.
Or the reverse could be true, too. You may go too fast for them, and you may need to slow down a little bit.
True.
Avoid escalating problems to the boss too quickly before you've tried to solve them yourself or bounced it off a coworker and said, hey, here's the problem, here's what I'm thinking about doing. Do a gravity check.
I have to stop you there again, Pete. As we're coaching team members and we're coaching managers and directors, and we've had feedback on that from, God, every time they have a problem, they're coming to me. Come with a solution.
Right.
Come with
That's
a
actually
solution.
the next bullet point. When you bring the boss a problem, also bring a solution. That's what they're paying you for, usually.
Right.
Is to think about how to fix it.
And maybe a couple choices. Hey, we could do A or B.
If you must disagree with your boss, and it's okay to do that, do it privately in a calm voice during a low-stress time. It's simple advice, but people don't always do it.
No, in fact, we just ran into this. Here's a case study of a company that where they disagreed, and they did it in a meeting and called him out, created an argument. It was not good.
That's not good.
It wasn't good. He didn't realize that.
I mean, you can cause some permanent damage to yourself.
Oh, yes, because guess what
And
it
to
looks
the firm.
like?
You're not helping the firm.
It looks like you're creating a mutiny of some kind.
Right.
And it looks like you're trying to, and guess what? The point wasn't right. And he thought it was right. That just isn't good.
Yeah.
And so we're teaching you now. So if you're listening to us, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the best bosses I ever worked for. I had disagreements with him on several things, but when I did, I would shut his door and go in and sit down and go through it in great detail. And here's why I think I'm right. And if he decided another way, okay, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
But we had the argument out, but it was calm and professional. But we got it all out. More tips. Never badmouth your bosses behind their backs. It seems like common sense, but sometimes it happens. You just can't do that.
I want to take a moment here because we have a couple clients that this is happening to right now and we're not coaching them. We're coaching some of the managers, and the managers are telling us that they're talking bad about that. That is, if you're not happy there, then get happy or move on.
Somewhere else,
but don't try and sabotage those around us and the boss. That's just not a good thing.
Right. Never embarrass your boss in front of others. That's pretty obvious. And avoid overload for yourself by asking your boss for help in prioritizing projects rather than saying no or missing a deadline.
I like this.
If you got 6 or 8 things that you need to do in a hurry and you got limited resources, you need to get your points together and then go in and ask for some help.
And is this from the Wall Street Journal?
It is.
It is. This is good. These are good tips because we are running into this right now where and here's the thing is some of your team members, Pete, they may not know this. So one of your jobs as a manager, a leader is education and development. And this is part of it is are you spending time on teaching?
Yeah, for example, how often do you want updates? You can ask, is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Do you want me to write a monthly report of how my department's doing?
Right.
And do you want face-to-face, over the phone, or an email?
Right.
How would you like it?
Right.
Maybe you need a weekly email, but then once a month we're going to have a face-to-face meeting and go through some numbers.
Right. And that's what we call alignment. That's gaining alignment.
Right. The other part of it is just the idea, and you usually can't hand them a disc test, right, and take that.
Right.
But you can decide, are they focused more on accomplishing things, results, or are they focused on how everybody's feeling, people?
Well, that's going back to your first point, as Pete and I are talking about the office as our topic and how do we get along and how do we lead up. Well, observe your boss, your leader, and how they like to be communicated with. As
they're interacting with others, you can observe them. Even if they're on the phone, you can figure out a lot by just listening to them. And that book, People, Smart in Business, will give you some tips on how to read someone.
Tony Alessandra.
It's
a good book.
Very good book.
It is a very good book.
Very simple, but it's powerful stuff. And
of course, that means you have to we'll circle back to the beginning of our show. You have to be off the phone in order to to be present to observe. So,
darn it.
Yes, you must do that. So get off your phone and observe not just your boss, but those around you.
Right.
That would be good. Yeah. That is a good idea. So leading up, just to recap, is some of the things as coaches that Pete and I see is making sure that you communicate and are aligned with what they need, right? A communication plan, so to speak.
Right. You're there to support them, right? So what do they really want? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you think you know what the boss really wants from your department or your team or your division, but you may need to ask them periodically because things do change.
And you said something that I really liked, Pete, where you said, you know, sometimes they say, well, they should know how I'm doing. You know, the reality of it is, should they? Yes, but we're so busy. Some people don't even have job descriptions or key performance indicators.
Right, and it's good to bring great results at the end of the quarter or the end of the year, and it's also good to communicate what you did to get those results.
Right.
Or what your team did to get those results.
And if you don't have the job description or the key performance indicators, I'm thinking of the one company that we coach, then create it.
Create them. They're not that hard. We can help you with that.
Yes.
If you give us a call, 614-306-7922, we can help you.
Yes, and now
it's not that hard.
Now, do we have any more? We should talk a little bit. We have just a little bit left to talk about Growth Club, our 90-day planning.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we have a 90-day planning session coming up on June 8th.
Yes, right around
and
the corner.
And if you would like to attend, give us a call, 614-306-7922. The whole purpose of that is to create a plan for the third quarter of the year.
So this is complimentary if you call Pete right now.
Just write your name and address on the back of a $100 bill and mail it. Excuse me. No, sorry.
You can call in, and it could be you and an employee, or you could go to our website, because we have, if you go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com, you'll see contact form. You can fill that out, and it's a $300 value that will give complimentary to the business that comes in. And the hours are from when, Pete?
8:30 to 3:30.
8:30 to 3:30.
And we'd like you there at 8.
Right. We're going to
We'll cover some concepts in the first hour that are general business concepts and communication concepts, and then we're going to get into the planning. We also have a guest speaker that's coming in to talk about marketing in your business.
Yes, marketing and digital marketing online, and it's going to be fantastic.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success, sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.